Thank you very much. Now, if you've had to book a driving test recently, you'll know there can be quite a wait, about 5 months, I think it is, a serious backlog which has built up during the pandemic. Now, there's further concern after the decision to close a driving test centre on Tyneside. Now, I went to find out more and ended up behind the wheel putting my own skills to the test. A man under stress. Instructor Andrea is putting me through a mock driving test. Never looked in the mirror so much. Now, when I got my licence, dinosaurs weren't quite roaming the earth, but Margaret Thatcher was PM, Neighbours was the top TV show, and the big film was, quite appropriately I suppose, Driving Miss Daisy.
Driving in the middle of the road.
After 250 yards.
I'm not sure my skills are up to chauffeur standard. This route through Sunderland is familiar to those who've taken a test there, but it'll soon have to be taken by learners from South Tyneside, as its South Shields Test Centre is being shut by the Driver and Vehicle Standards Agency, or DVSA. Local instructors aren't happy.
South Shields Test Centre has served the community for generations. The closure of it has been announced by DVSA with no real communication with the public. I understand it's a cost-cutting exercise, but personally speaking, I think what the DVSA should be doing is recruiting each and every test centre to full capacity to tackle this huge backlog.
There was a protest on Monday about the closure, and the local MP is also angry. She raised it with the Transport Minister this week, especially as the DVSA also plans to close a centre in Newcastle too.
There are 8 in the country that are due to close, and a quarter of them, 2 of them, are in the North East. However, I did yesterday receive a letter from Loveday Ryder, who is the Chief Executive of the DVSA, to tell me that they are willing to see if they can find alternative suitable accommodation. Now, they make no promises, but it's potentially a step in the right direction, and we'll see where it goes to.
A glimmer of hope then, but I suppose you want to know whether my driving passed muster. Andrea, I'm looking at my form here that you marked 24 faults. Is that even close to a pass?
Nowhere near. You're only allowed 15, but you don't want to get 15, you want to get as few as possible.
OK, well, that's quite depressing, but there's a serious point here, which is that you're concerned, I was unfamiliar with some of the roads, that this will force drivers from South Shields onto unfamiliar roads when they come to take the test.
That roundabout that we did along Wessington Way, the A1231, that was where you got your first serious error, and you saw for yourself how bad the markings were on that roundabout as well. Those need the most work around this area because it's not simple.
As I duly proved. I should say the DVSA told us that they don't believe that closure will add to the queue for tests, as there'll be the same number of test appointments available just in Sunderland instead. And also they say that drivers should be able to cope with any roads that are thrown at them. Obviously, I disproved that. Paul Howell, given these delays, should the DVSA be closing centres too in the North East?
You mean, from what you've said, Richard, you know, they believe that the numbers are the same. But I have to say that I know when I took my driving test, which is more than a week or 2 ago, you know, you wanted to get familiar with your local area. So, I mean, I do follow the logic in terms of, you know, wanting to be within a sensible region of where you live to be taking your test.
Have you had correspondence from people concerned about delays in this system?
No, not in terms of driving tests. We've had lots of correspondence in terms of driving licences and the things down in Swansea. But not locally for me. No, it's not quite into my patch as to where that is.
Joy Ellen, I was trying to think of a police-related question other than keeping me off the roads of County Durham, which I'm sure you would rather do after that.
Took your registration number down.
But I suppose you know, this backlog. I suppose the danger is that young people might be tempted, you know, to drive without a licence.
Well, for me, rather than closing, if you've got a 6-month backlog, you would think you'd be opening more up. There's obviously something not going quite right in the system, and my concern, if I was living in that area, as Paul said, it's not in our area, but if I was a driving test instructor, I would be taking more people to learn to drive in that one area, so you're going to have double the amount of learner drivers in that area where they're proposing to move to. I hope they're seeing sense and keep them open, because it doesn't, for me, it doesn't stack up with what they're saying is to justify the closure.
I mean, the concern I think that the instructors have, which I think echoes what you say, is that, you know, that for South Shields instructors, coming out of the COVID pandemic as well, they've had a tough time. Yeah. They've either got a choice with, you know, adding to their costs by going to Sunderland or taking people on lessons in areas where they might not find a test.
Well, I think what they have to do, if there's a 6-month backlog, as soon as you start taking your test, start learning to drive, you have to put in for your test. Otherwise, you could be ready to have your test and have to wait 6 months. So what do you do there? So there's definitely something going wrong in the system. And as a PCC, I don't want anybody driving without a licence or capable on the roads.
I've still got a licence at the moment. Let's hope my insurer wasn't watching. That is it from us. There's all the very latest on the Ukraine situation, of course, on the BBC News channel and your local BBC radio station, whether it's Radio Cumbria, York, Tees or Newcastle. We'll have details of the ways in which you can help those affected by the crisis.